Hello dear students, today we are going to discuss the topic bioassay of auxins, cytokinins and gibberellin. The main objectives of the topic are to know what bioassay is, to know the uses and limitations of bioassay, to gain knowledge about bioassay of auxins, to know about the bioassay of cytokinins, to gain insight into the bioassay of gibberellins. Let's start with a brief introduction. Bioassay means the testing of substance for its activity in causing a growth response in a living plant or its parts. The test measures the concentration required to produce the effect and thus it is quantitative. A bioassay is the use of a plant or plant organ or tissue to measure its response to a specific plant growth regulator. Since there are many naturally occurring hormones and hundreds of their synthetic analogues, the number of bioassays is very large. Bioassays are useful in many ways. First, they are one of the major methods to determine the endogenous levels of a hormone in a plant organ or tissue with sensitivities of detection ranging from 1 to 1000 microgram per gram fresh weight. Second, they are essential for monitoring the biological activity of a fraction during a hormone or PGR purification protocol. Third, they are invaluable for testing new compounds in relation to natural hormones. Fourth, they are useful for determining the relationship between the molecular structure of a compound and its biological activity, that is, structure-activity relationships, and in devising new compounds. The usefulness of a bioassay depends on its specificity and sensitivity, that is, the response is given by only one class of PGRs and not others, and that a measurable response is obtained at relatively low concentrations of the PGR. It also depends on the precision with which the response can be measured and the ease with which the bioassay can be performed. Bioassays suffer from three major limitations. First, the actual concentration of the PGR at the site of the action may be vastly different from that supplied because of the conditions affecting the uptake of the PGR and or its transport to the site of action. Second, the PGR may be metabolized by living tissue, thus affecting its concentration. Also, an inactive form of the PGR may be metabolized to an active form by the living tissues or vice versa. Third, bioassay responses are subject to statistical error and usually are not accurate within one log of response. For these reasons, for qualitative and quantitative determination of specific hormones and PGRs, bioassays have been mostly replaced by newer, more precise analytical techniques. Bioassays remain indispensable, however, because they provide biological meaning to testing of new compounds and for determination of structure-activity relationships. Next is bioassays of auxins. For auxins, bioassay is usually performed by Avena-Coleoptile curvature test and crest root inhibition test. First, Avena geocurvature test. F.W. Wendt, working at Utrecht, Holland, succeeded in isolating the growth substance about the presence of which the earlier workers had already given sufficient evidence. He placed several freshly cut coleoptile tips on an agar block which was kept on a piece of inert material such as glass. After a particular period of time, he cut the agar block into small cubes. He discarded the tips and placed the agar cubes eccentrically on decapitated coleoptile stumps for 2 hours in the dark. The effect of the agar cube was similar to that of the tip as was shown by the curvature of the coleoptiles. He named the substance auxin. To measure quantitatively the amount of auxin in an unknown organ, the extract is taken, the curvature caused by it is measured and is compared with curvatures produced by unknown quantities of the auxin. This is a bioassay for auxin. Because of the use of Avena plant for the bioassay by Wendt, it subsequently became known as Avena curvature test. The Avena geocurvature test is a bioassay for auxin type growth regulators. Etiolated oat coleoptiles are used and the test is conducted in special perspex trays under diffuse daylight. The coleoptiles with the primary leaves intact are arranged in grooves on the trays in 4 series of 6 coleoptiles each and cut to a size of 10 mm. The test substance is applied on an agar strip covering only the lower halves of the apical cut surfaces of each series. After a 4-hour stay in the dark in moist petri dishes, the coleoptile cylinders are shadowgraphed on a 35 mm photographic film. The curvatures are measured from an enlarged projection of the shadographs. The lowest IAA concentration which can be determined is around 30 to 60 microgram per liter, that's about 1 to 2 nanogram IAA. The concentration response curves follow a logarithmic course up to 1000 microgram per liter. The simple and quick procedures make it possible for a worker to test 60 to 80 fractions a day. Next is root growth inhibition bioassay. Sterilized seeds of cress are allowed to germinate on moist filter paper. As the roots reach a length of 1 cm or so, root lengths are measured. 50% of the seedlings are placed in a test solution, while the remaining are allowed to grow over moist paper. Lengths of the roots are measured after 48 hours. It is seen that seedlings placed in test solution show very little root growth, while root growth is normal in control seedlings. Next is pea stem segment test. F.W. Wendt also gave a new method for determining the growth hormone, that's auxin concentration of solutions, the so-called pea test. If the rapidly elongation region of an etiolated pea stem is split lengthwise and placed in water, the two halves will bend outward owing to tissue tension. If the split stems are placed in solutions containing auxins, however, the growing zones will bend inward, assuming an S or crescent outline. The inward curvature is proportional to the log of the auxin concentration. Next is bioassay of cytokinins. The activity of cytokinins in stimulating cell division formed the basis for the original techniques for their bioassay and for later modifications. Besides cell division, as various other activities of cytokinins became evident, numerous other types of stimulations have been employed in bioassays. These include cytokinin stimulations of lamina frond growth, of seed germination, leaf enlargement, or the cytokinin deferral of leaf senescence. Each of these assay techniques has limitations, being relatively complicated, utilizing relatively large volumes of solution, requiring relatively long time periods as in the case of tissue culture assays, or being relatively insensitive or non-specific for cytokinins. It was found that the growth of the cotyledon tissue of Xanthium expresses a large and rapid cytokinin response which can be obtained in very small solution volumes and which is sensitive to cytokinin concentrations as low as 10⁻⁻8 molar. Next is Xanthium cotyledon expansion test. The procedure for bioassay given by Ishashi and Leopold is as: the seeds of Xanthium pennsylvanicum are removed from the budded fruit using a razor cut along the side of the burr, avoiding damage to the seeds. Selecting either the large or the small seeds for any given experiment, 3 mm sections are cut from the center of the seed, discarding the end pieces. The 3 sections are each cut again longitudinally and the 6 pieces are placed on wet filter paper for 5 to 7 hours to complete the first phase of water uptake. The pieces are then rinsed in distilled water and separated into the 2 cotyledonary pieces, resulting in 12 pieces of tissue from each seed. 10 randomized pieces are used for each cytokinin determination, and after initial weight of the group of 10 has been taken, each group is placed on filter paper moistened with the solution to be tested. For solutions in generous supply, use 3 discs of 4.5 cm Wattman No. 1 filter paper in a 5 cm Petri dish moistened with 1.5 ml of solution containing 10⁻⁻² molar phosphate buffer. For solutions in small supply, 3 pieces of paper 2 cm square are placed in a stalk on a microscope slide and moistened with 0.5 ml of buffer. After 4 days in the dark at 33 degrees centigrade, the fresh weight is taken again, and the increase in fresh weight is the measure of growth. A time course for the enlargement of the cotyledon pieces is used to compare the growth of controls and pieces given 10⁻⁻5 molar benzyl adenine. The most rapid growth occurs on the 2nd and 3rd days, and a slight decline in rate is usually evident for the 4th day, at which time the final readings are taken. Cotyledonary growth is not increased by any concentration of indole acetic acid in presence or absence of cytokinin. The inclusion of 0.25 molar mannitol in the buffer medium will completely eliminate the response to gibberellic acid, while only lowering the growth response to cytokinins. Benzyl adenine produces more than a 400% increase over the controls at 10⁻⁻4 molar, and the limit of sensitivity is at concentrations less than 10⁻⁻7 molar. In order of declining activities, the assay responds to SD8339, that is 6-benzyl amino 9-tetrahydropyran purine, an analog of benzyl adenine, zeatin, 8-dimethyl allyl adenine, kinetin, and diphenylurea. No response to adenine was detected. As a means of limiting the involvement of gibberellin in the cotyledon expansion assay, one can supply an optimal amount of gibberellic acid, that is 10⁻⁻7 molar. When this is done, the relative activities of the various cytokinins are somewhat altered in the presence of gibberellin. The limit of sensitivity for each cytokinin is at a 10-fold greater dilution, and dramatic increases in relative activity are evident for SD8339, dimethyl allyl adenine, and kinetin. In the presence of gibberellin, adenine becomes slightly stimulatory of cotyledon growth at 10⁻⁻5 molar. Thus, with added gibberellin, one can achieve an enhanced responsiveness to some cytokinins. If 0.25 molar mannitol is included to limit the sensitivity of the assay to gibberellins, benzyl adenine again is the most active, followed by the other substituted adenines, and diphenylurea is the least active. Utilizing variations of the test procedure, it was found that the large xanthium seed is slightly more responsive than the small seed, that new seeds are more responsive than seeds harvested 2 or 3 years before use, that the growth response is slightly enhanced by the red light, and that the phosphate buffer increases the growth responses obtained at the higher concentration range. The test can be carried out successfully at lower temperatures such as 23 or 25 degrees centigrade, but the growth is somewhat slower and lesser in extent. The ability of cotyledons to enlarge in response to kinetin was discovered by Ikuma and Thyman in lettuce seed and confirmed later by Shabby and Lang. It is probable that such cytokinin stimulation may be obtained in the seeds of many species in which the cotyledons undergo extensive growth during germination. The seeds of Xanthium provide a particularly useful material for utilization of such responses to cytokinins, in that the large size provides an easy material to measure. The cytokinin response is of a high sensitivity, large magnitude and can be specific for cytokinins. This technique has been employed in assaying cytokinin levels in extracts of potato and begonia and in extracts and eluates of numerous types of seeds. The assay lends itself readily to analysis of paper chromatographs. Next is tobacco pith culture test. Out of 2 tobacco pith cultures, one is supplied with cytokinin while the other is not. Increase in fresh weight of the tissue over the control is a measure of stimulation of cell divisions and hence cytokinin activity. The test can measure cytokinin concentration between 0.001 to 10 mg per liter. It takes 3 to 5 weeks. Next is retardation of leaf senescence test. It is a rapid bioassay technique. Leaf discs are taken in 2 lots. In one lot, cytokinin is provided. After 48 to 72 hours, the leaf discs are compared for chlorophyll content. Cytokinin retards the process of chlorophyll degradation. The test is sensitive in concentration of 1 pg per liter. Now coming to the bioassay of gibberellins. A number of bioassays are known for gibberellins such as barley endosperm test, dwarf corn test, dwarf pea test, dwarf rice leaf sheath bioassay, lettuce hypocotyle test, cucumber hypocotyle test, etc. Barley endosperm bioassay is probably the most widely used test. Now coming to barley endosperm test. This bioassay is probably the most widely used and is based on the fact that during germination of grains such as barley, wheat and oats, gibberellin is released from the embryo which moves to the aileron cells where it induces synthesis of the enzyme alpha amylase. This enzyme hydrolyzes starch into simple reducing sugars. Gibberellic acid and other gibberellins enhance the release of reducing substances from barley endosperm. The quantity of the reducing substances released is proportional to the logarithm of gibberellin concentration applied. This proportionality has provided a basis for the estimation of gibberellins in plant extracts. However, this bioassay has proved erratic, perhaps because traces of a wide variety of substances present as impurities in the organic solvents used to prepare the plant extracts cause the release or interfere with the measurement of reducing substances from barley endosperm. The release of reducing substances is primarily a result of the gibberellin dependent synthesis and secretion of alpha amylase by the aileron layers. Thus, the production of alpha amylase is one step nearer to the primary site of action of gibberellin. Therefore, measurement of alpha amylase activity as a gibberellin bioassay may be expected to be less susceptible to non-specific interferences. Direct measurement of the alpha amylase released by the barley endosperm has proved to be a simple, reproducible bioassay, which is insensitive to solvent residues. Now coming to its procedure. Seeds of Hordeum vulgare, that's barley, are cut in half transversely and the embryo portion discarded. The endosperm halves are sterilized by soaking in a 1% sodium hypochlorite, that's commercial bleach, solution for 20 minutes, followed by 3 washings in sterile water. Sterilized seeds are imbibed on a sterile sand in 10 cm petri dishes, each containing 100 gram ignited sand moistened with 20 ml sterile water. Following a 3-day imbibition period, 10 half seeds each are transferred to 25 ml Erlenmeyer flasks containing 2 micromoles of acetate buffer, 20 micromoles of calcium chloride, and the solution to be tested in a final volume of 2 ml. The flasks containing the calcium chloride and buffer are autoclaved prior to commencement of the incubation period. As an added precaution against microbial contamination, 20 microgram of chloramphenicol can be added to each flask. Incubation of the half seeds is continued for 24 hours at 25 degrees with continuous shaking at 40 oscillations per minute. Following the incubation period, the medium is decanted into 100 into 7.5 mm centrifuge tubes and washings totaling another 3 ml are added. After this, the tubes are centrifuged for 10 minutes at 2000 X3. The assay for alpha amylase is accomplished using suitable volumes of the supernatant fraction of the medium together with sufficient water to make a total volume of 1 ml. The reaction is started by adding to the medium 1 ml of the starch substrate and allowed to continue for a suitable period of time. The reaction is stopped by addition of 1 ml of iodine reagent. To this final reaction mixture, 5 ml of distilled water is added, mixed, and the optical density read at 620 nanometers. The decrease in optical density is directly proportional to the quantity of alpha amylase present in the reaction mixture. The most accurate results are obtained by adjusting the enzyme aliquot and the time so that the optical density of the starch iodine complex is about half the optical density of the zero time control. Optical density values are converted to micrograms alpha amylase released using a factor which is obtained for each particular starch sample by incubation with a pure alpha amylase preparation. The starch solution for alpha amylase assay is prepared from 150 mg of native, that is not solubilized, potato starch, 600 mg KH2PO4 and 200 micromolar calcium chloride in a total volume of 100 ml of distilled water. The mixture is boiled for 1 minute, cooled, then centrifuged for 10 minutes at 3000 X3. The clear supernatant is decanted off and used for assay. The iodine stock solution is prepared by mixing 6 gram of potassium iodide and 600 mg of iodine in 100 ml of water. 1 ml of the stock solution is added to 0.05 normal hydrochloric acid to give a final volume of 100 ml. This is used to stop the alpha amylase reaction. The amount of alpha amylase released from barley half seeds in response to GA3 application is proportional in the range of 0.0005 microgram per ml to 0.05 microgram per ml. Other gibberellins are also tested in this system. Gibberellins AX, A4 and A are found to be comparable to GA3 with respect to alpha amylase release. GA5 on the other hand is considerably less effective. This method of measuring gibberellin induced alpha amylase release is also suitable for the bioassay of gibberellin like substances present in plant extracts and agar diffusates. Sugar release assay described by Palage et al. 1960 measures the release of sugar rather than alpha amylase from barley half seeds. However, the release of alpha amylase from barley half seeds is thought to be specific to gibberellins in contrast to sugar release, which is affected by residues or impurities present in certain solvents. The measure of gibberellin induced alpha amylase release from barley half seeds provides a suitable method for the bioassay of gibberellin-like substances. The induction of alpha amylase synthesis and its subsequent secretion is specific to gibberellins. Neither auxins nor cytokinins have any effect in this system. It is however inhibited by various naturally occurring growth inhibitors. Crispels and Werner have shown that abscissin second can inhibit the effect of gibberellin in inducing alpha amylase synthesis, although on a molecular basis approximately 10 times as much abscissin is required to inhibit the GA-induced response. As abscissin has been found in several plant extracts, the preparation of dilution series would appear necessarily to obtain truly quantitative data on a bioassay of plant extracts for gibberellins. Another source of error in the measurement of alpha amylase released from hop seeds may arise from the presence of microbial contaminants in the surrounding medium. In contrast to the sugar release assay, where the presence of microorganisms may amplify sugar release, microorganisms denature and destroy alpha amylase. Thus, measurement of alpha amylase released never yields a false positive test for gibberellins. However, microbial contamination is seldom a problem if aseptic procedures are used in the preparation of both the seeds and medium. Addition of chloroamphenicol at 20 microgram per ml effectively inhibits bacterial growth, and at this concentration has no known effect on plant metabolism. Residues from organic solvents have no effect on alpha amylase release. This suggests that the reducing substances released by organic solvent residues must be a result of hydrolysis by an enzyme other than alpha amylase, possibly beta amylase. Next is Dwarf-Kohn test. This bioassay is based on the fact that gibberellins cause elongation of the internodes, and in case of corn, they also increase the length of the leaf sheaths which surround the internodes. The procedure of this bioassay is simple. A measured amount of the test solution in a suitable wetting agent is applied into the first unfolding leaf of corn seedlings when they are 6 to 7 days old. The seedlings are allowed to grow for 6 or 7 more days till the first and the second leaves are fully developed. The increase in the length of the first leaf sheath is measured and is plotted against the concentration of gibberellin applied. Within limits, a direct relationship is observed between the two. With this, we come to the end of today's lecture. Thank you.